Hey y'all, today on Woodworking 101, we're going to dive into the circular saw because it's one tool that you will use quite often, especially I use it every day. The first thing we're going to want to do is cut a good old-fashioned 2x4. So I'm going to bring you in and I'm going to show you kind of the basics. So some basics to the skill saw are, some of them will have a safety here that you have to push in before you hit the trigger. I can't say all, but should all have a guard, which as you see has a thumb lever here, and that's just so you can roll it up to expose the blade. They all, not all, but most, will have a degrees bevel on. I think these go up to 45. Some of them go a shade over. And then on the back side here, they'll have some type of lever here, and that's for setting your depth. So when you're cutting through a 2x4, we're going to go ahead and put them down all the way. This is a 7 1/4. They make, I think, a 6 1/2, maybe a 4 1/2. There's a lot of different sizes that they make, but that's kind of the basics of it. All we're going to do is have him set as deep as he'll go, and then you're going to take and want to cut your 2x4. This guy is 47 5/8, but we're going to cut him at 36 inches. So in order to do that, you want to make a mark, and what I like to do when I make my mark is I make a point. So let me see if I can exaggerate this a little bit more. Maybe you can see it. You make a point, and then that way, because if you only make a line, what if your line's crooked? Then if we cut it here, it's going to be shorter than you want. Here it's going to be longer than you want. So we make a point. When you take that point, you're going to take your handy dandy speed square, put him on that point, draw your line. Just to show you what I'm talking about here. See, here's my point. See, my line goes through it. Here's a point. You know, it's obviously exaggerated, but then, like I said, if you only draw a line, see how it's crooked? Anyways, so we get him here, and I'm right-handed, so I would want to be on this side because here's my right hand. When you go to cut him, what I like to do, every one of them will have something along these lines. You see that little line right there? That is the straight line. That's how you follow a straight line. What I always like to do is start my saw. Now, this is what I did when I was starting out. Now it's a little different, but I always put a tick. And that way, when you line him up in the tick, you can also line up your front guide like so. And you end up with a nice straight cut. So that's good for 2x, 2x12s, 2x6s, all nominal lumber like that. Next, we're going to move to a sheet of plywood. Now, for plywood, on the other hand, we're starting with a square edge because it's factory. I've ripped this down to 20 inches for another project, but now I need to cross cut him down to 40 inches. So what I'm going to do is measure, and you put your tick here, okay, on this side, and if this is 4 foot, it's the same. If it's 3 foot, this is, like I said, just a 20-inch piece. We do the same. We put our tick there, and then we take a bigger straight edge and line them up and draw your line. Right? You've got to do that because you want to make sure you can't just make one mark unless you're using a framing square, which is a 90-degree angle, and you can line the top up here, and that works. But if you can pull on both sides, I feel like you get a better cut personally. But so anyways, this is the same thing. I'm going to bring in. So you notice I got him off of my saw, so when I cut through, I don't cut into my table. That's something that you should keep in mind. And just like before, so we start with, you're looking right here, seeing your blade touch your plywood. We start there, and then you'll see your guide point up here. You keep him on the line, and you cut him on through. like so. And we end up with a nice straight cut. I know you see that, that's an imperfection in the wood. I know it looks like my line, I know. But anywho, there you go. Well, there you go, peeps. That is how you use a circular saw to cut almost anything you need to. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep making dust.